Hello, I'm Olivia. I rarely remember my dreams, but when I do, they feel more real than my waking life. On that particular night, I closed my eyes and the silence began to change. The chapel was a tomb of silence. Its vaulted ceiling absorbed even the slightest whisper. The cold stone flooring pressed against Olivia's knees while she knelt before the altar. The flickering candlelight danced, creating long, unsteady shadows that stretched across the weathered wooden benches in the dimly lit room. She ought to have been engaged in prayer, her hands joined, her thoughts lucid, her spirit completely given over. But her devotion had long ago become something darker, a persistent thought, a weight on her chest that she couldn't shake off. "Oh, Father," she murmured, the beads of the rosary she held intertwined in her fingers brushing against her lips. "Forgive me." But it wasn't God she was thinking of. It was him, Father Damien, the way his voice resonated through the chapel during Mass, the way his large hands clung tightly to the lectern as though he was struggling against some unseen power, the manner in which his eyes rested upon her at the moment she was receiving the sacrament, the way his thumb brushed her lower lip as he pressed the host into her mouth. A sharp metallic noise echoes down the long corridor, filling the air with a high-pitched tone. Something fell, something disturbed. Olivia suddenly lifted her head with her heart racing. The noise originated from the private quarters belonging to Father Damien. She shouldn't have investigated, she knew it, but to think of him there, perhaps praying in that low, harsh voice, was simply too much to bear. She took a sharp breath as she rose and quietly made her way toward the door, her heart beating so strongly she was sure it would give her away. Pressing her ear to the wood, she heard him, the murmur of his deep, tense voice. "Oh, Father, I wish to be with Olivia." Olivia was left breathless, her fingers tightening against the doorframe, emotion flooding her as she heard her name on Father Damien's lips. She really shouldn't have been eavesdropping. She ought to have turned around, returned to her prayers, and pleaded for forgiveness. But her mind was occupied with different thoughts. She slowly let herself fall onto her knees, her eyes glued to the keyhole. The view took her breath away. Father Damien was kneeling before his small altar, his shoulders hunched and his hands tightly clasped, yet without prayer. "She pursues me," he confessed in a hoarse voice. "Her lips when she takes the host, her eyes when she watches me. I simply cannot. I cannot cease thinking of her kneeling, not for your sake, but for mine." A sigh escaped Olivia before she could stop herself. She should have gone then, but she continued to gaze through the door's keyhole. Father Damien's head lifted abruptly, as though he had heard her, as if he were suddenly aware of her presence. Olivia startled and quickly backed away from the door. She didn't even dare to breathe as she fled. She didn't stop until she reached the center of the chapel, the altar looming before her. Olivia couldn't stop herself from feeling the way she did. She sank to her knees and sighed. "Oh God! Oh Father!" Words spilled from her, dirty and sacred at once. The chapel was unbearably silent. Every sound was obscene and every breath a sin. "Yes, like this," Olivia cried, her voice breaking. Suddenly, the heavy oak door creaked open. Olivia's eyes snapped open as she whipped her head around, breathing in short, sharp gasps. "Olivia?" a voice called from the shadows. It was him, Father Damien. He stood at the door. He hadn't only heard her, he had seen her. For a moment, neither of them moved. But something dark crossed Father Damien's mind. Olivia was ashamed. She should have followed, requested forgiveness, and hastily ran away. But Father Damien quickly crossed the chapel, embracing Olivia without even asking her. And no time to run. Father Damien tasted of wine and sin, all that she had always longed for and had been honored for. "Are you a good girl?" Father Damien exclaimed. Or do you want me to treat you like the sinner you are? That's what I want. Punish my sins, Olivia whispered. When it was over, they simply stared at each other. Silence filled the chapel, broken only by the pounding of their accelerated hearts. All at once, the bells of the chapel began to ring, distant at first, then louder and more insistent. Olivia's eyes snapped open as the dream dissolved around her. The alarm clock was ringing. It was time for school. Olivia placed a hand over her chest, her heart still beating forcefully. Her breathing ragged, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek as she whispered, "It was only a dream."